card, and maybe from the outside looking in, he hasn't been at the same level since. Is that kind of fair?
I think, again, probably indicative of our season. He's kind of, he has been very good at times, but he hasn't really got a flow. He got suspended, and he went away to the African nations. So it's very, very hard for any player to sort of maintain certain levels if you're not, got some sort of consistency in game time and inconsistency in kind of flow. And I think he's been better the last few weeks. I think, he kind of, like I said, because he was so disruptive in that middle of the year, like a lot of others, he just wasn't really getting up to the levels that he showed earlier in the year. But I think he's been better the last few games. And, the challenge for him is to kind of work his way through that. I still think he's been a really important player for us this year. And, when he is sort of playing at the levels we know he can play, it makes us a much more difficult team to stop. So, I guess that's his challenge.
He was left out of the Mali squad for these internationals. I mean, how is he? Is he frustrated at the way his season's going?
No, I don't sense that in him. I think he's like everyone else. Like I said, like us as a club. We kind of haven't really hit the heights on a consistent level we want to, but that's okay. That's where we're at, and that's where he's at, and that's where a lot of the group are at. And the challenge is to fight through that and sort of make sure that you come out the other side being stronger and more consistent.
It was a challenging first game for the Rally Dragons against Fulham, but he strikes me as the kind of person who's, by all accounts, a great trainer, chomping at the bit to get another chance. Obviously, you mentioned Mickey is available. I mean, is that the sort of feeling you've got off Rally from over this international break? He's very keen to get another opportunity.
Oh, I hope so. I mean, that's why he's here. He didn't come to sort of play one game. But, I don't think against Fulham, he was any better or worse than anyone else. I think, like I said, I thought we as a team, as a collective, were really, nowhere near the competitive levels we wanted to be. And so it wasn't reflective of him. But, we signed Rody because we see, player who can contribute in there, and he's had to bide his time a little bit because obviously with Mickey and Romero, they're pretty strong partnership there. He's had to wait for his chance, but we knew his chance would come, and it came. Whether it was at Villa the week before or at Fulham, and he's ready, he's available. He played for Romania during the break, and we see him as part of our future.
And just back to the post-season friendly, when Gareth Southgate was asked about it, he said we'll see this happen more and more for clubs. So the reason he thinks is because it's down to profit sustainability, clubs having to generate their own money. Is that how you see it? Is that the reason behind why there might be more of these games? And how much did you have to weigh up the environmental factor?
Like I said, with all these things, there's always costs and benefits to it, and you try and weigh them all up. My involvement in that is more around the footballing aspect, but this is a club decision we're making here, that we take all these factors into account, and we kind of thought that, with our season being so disrupted, not a lot of games, this was a unique opportunity for us. I wouldn't see it as something that would happen on a regular basis unless, as I said, we felt the benefits would outweigh the costs. And on this occasion, when we balanced everything up, we thought it was a good opportunity for us to again take the club to the other side of the world and sort of help us continue to grow the football club. And that's why the decision was made.
And just finally back to the Richarlison incident, we talked about it already last season, but it was really striking how effective he was in detail going into it. He mentioned about feeling like he was wanting to give up, which it's hard to know exactly what he meant by that, but if you meant football-wise, which I guess would be the least serious version of that, did you get a sense at the time that was a player who was questioning that, because it would have been about sort of September, quite early into the tenure?
Look, I'm really reluctant to talk about details about that stuff. I think it's better Richie tells his story. I just don't think it adds any sort of, it would be unfair of me to kind of add to that narrative, because I could reveal or say something that he doesn't want. I think the story is always better told by the person who's involved, and from my perspective, as I've always said, I kind of, what I try and do with all the players is provide an environment where, they feel comfortable and safe enough to seek any help they do need. Now, whether it's Richie or other players who have sought or needed help this year, what we've tried to do in my role in that is to try and steer them towards that, and also, as I think I've said in the past, to hopefully give them some perspective around, that whatever the issue may be, it doesn't have to be overwhelming in that it sort of takes over your whole life. And, from a football perspective anyway, if we just narrow it to that, my kind of main bits of advice to him was more around get your body right, because I knew he was struggling with his body at the time as well. So, when you've got things and they become overwhelming, just chip away one at a time, and it'll help you rather than try and tackle it all at once.
So just a really different way of asking the question is, because it was so striking, and I hadn't seen talk about that before. Obviously, you deal with players, you've had players across your whole career, you have privately talked about this kind of thing. Did it have an effect on the club at all? Sort of, it's so sort of revelatory that a player can feel that way.
Yeah. No, but and I'll tell you why, because it's not that uncommon. And no, it's not. Well, not in my experience. I've always had, because like I keep saying, they're human beings, but for the most part, it's dealt behind closed doors. And it's why it's always probably really difficult for you guys to do your job, because you never have all the information, and you never will, because there's so much that goes on in football clubs. If you could just sort of expand that out to your life and just treat a football club like any other industry, you'll realise that in every other industry you've got people who are struggling with things. Football's no different, but we kind of, we've got a pretty strong sort of curtain that we can put up, and it kind of gets all hidden behind there. But I guess it's striking because people haven't come, or players, or whether that's managers, players, or people involved in football, haven't come out publicly before. But I can assure you that no greater but no lesser than any other part of society, there are problems that these players and people involved in our industry deal with, and the amount of money you have in the bank balance or your fame doesn't shield you from that.
Hi, Ange. Just to be clear on the friendly, is your expectation there will be a full first team squad with all the internationals there?
Yeah, well, I mean, everyone who's fit. I mean, we leave straight after the last game, so yeah, we'll be taking over everyone who's fit.
Would you understand if there was some nervousness on Gareth Southgate, for example?
Well, I'm sure Gareth will be a club coach one day, and he'll get a different perspective of it, as he has been in the past. I don't think Gareth said anything or any other national team manager. I was a national team manager, and I used to sweat over every weekend when the players were playing, whether that's a normal game, friendly game, whatever game it is. And the flip side of that is that there's quite a few club coaches who are on edge with national team duty this week. So it's a world we live in, mate.
This is a new fixture, obviously, being kind of inserted into the calendar, right?
Yeah. A bit like new tournaments are always inserted into the fixture, isn't it? National team tournaments. So whether you're a club coach or national team coach, this is the world we live in. There's got to be a balance. Like I said, we've thought it through as a football club, and look, it's fair to say that if we'd been in Europe and we'd had a really big season, that we probably would have made a different decision, but we weighed everything up and we felt like there's a real benefit for us to play this game.
Can I just ask about something separate as well, like kind of physical conditioning of players and how that's kind of changed over the course of your career, what the kind of different emphasis maybe is now than maybe what it was 10 years ago? Has that changed a lot in your mind? Yeah,
look, it has enormously. I mean, I think that the two sort of biggest areas of change when I think about sort of the 26, 27 years I've been managing are around, the sports science and the technology available from an analytics perspective to sort of assist you in your role. Again, not unusual as just the sort of everything else in life. Technology has kind of taken over. It's certainly infiltrated into football as well. and the sports science area. So the way you prepare players, the tools we have now to measure, how much they're working, what levels they're working, what kind of gives us great data to understand, how they are as individual athletes, all those kind of things. It's changed enormously. There's still some basic fundamentals there. A lot of it comes around to how your game model looks and what kind of football you want to play. And, I think most clubs now sort of tailor their training program around the kind of football they want to play on a weekend. And so, yes, there's been, I think it's probably still the areas of greatest growth you're going to get, or not growth, but sort of development in the game is in those spaces.
In the game, for example, what's the balance between you relying on your eye and your intuition versus the numbers that you're using?
Yeah, it's well, it depends on your experience, but because I have been in a game, more often than not, my gut feeling or my eye's pretty accurate, but if the data tells me something totally different, then I'll go with the data if it's the right data. But it's like everything in life. You get information. I mean, I think I said before, my major function every day is to make decisions. I'll make good decisions if I've got good information. So I try and get the best information I can, and by that I mean, good people around you, the best people around you, and they get access to the data, and they feed it into me, and then it's up to me to make the right decisions from there.
Thank you. I'm Kieran, and then Paul, please.
Hi, Ange. Obviously, Luton have been a fantastic story, and equally fantastic seeing Ross Barkley, what he's been doing this season. I think you were actually linked with him at Celtic in 2022. How true that is, I'm not sure if you might tell us.
Yeah. No, not true.
Not true?
No. But when I was at Celtic, mate, I was linked with, the Scottish press are beautiful, mate. Not that you guys are, and not casting any shadows on them, but they could throw up some names, mate. But he's been brilliant, mate. No, he's had an unbelievable season, and it's a credit to him, because I think, sometimes, particularly when players have sort of been at the highest level and he's still at a good age, people can sort of write their demise pretty quickly and write them off, but I think he's been outstanding this year. He's really consistent. You can see the quality he has as a footballer, but he's also, taken on the task of being kind of the main catalyst for Luton. He's the one in there who's got the experience, who's got the quality, and he hasn't shirked the battle. He's been outstanding for them.
Obviously, you mentioned we don't see what happens behind the scenes, and Ross is actually someone who's spoken about how he struggled himself. But I think from a neutral point of view, possibly from your point of view as well, that adds to the satisfaction in seeing what he's doing now, seeing him come back. Yeah,
absolutely. And look, I think, I guess, when players do speak out or kind of bring it into a public space, because to be fair, they're under no obligation to, because these are all private things that all of us, like I said, go through. And, I'm not sure how anyone else feels, but, if you are going through something really, difficult, you don't necessarily want everyone to know about it, because, sometimes, that doesn't help you finding the solution to it. So, when players in particular come out, I think it helps, because then other people kind of can see that, there is a way back from that. It doesn't have to be sort of, like I said, I keep saying overwhelming, where you think it kind of, stops you in achieving what you want to achieve. And but I'm sure, whether it's Ross or Richie, they'll be the first to admit, they've shared dressing rooms with other guys who've just been through just as difficult a time. We just don't know about it.
Just a slightly random one. Jared Gillett's the referee tomorrow. He became the Prem's first overseas ref when he came over here. There's been some calls in the past, a bit like clubs sign the best players. There's been some calls like the PGM Wales from there just sign the best referees from around the world. Do you think that's something that you'd like to see happen? Get the best referees from around the world?
Mate. Oh, yeah, that's a random one, mate. Yeah, not something I've given a lot of thought. Look, I mean, I think like any other profession, you want to get the best people. I don't think that the refereeing profession is any different. Obviously, you know, like any other kind of nation, you kind of want to try and sort of promote the people because, you know, again, when you decide that you want to become a referee, it's a fairly hard road you're kind of embarking on, irrespective of where you do it. And I reckon for any referee to reach this level, they've shown some intestinal fortitude to overcome things. And I think it's probably incumbent on all federations to say, well, you know, the people who've come through their own system should get the preference. But, you know, particularly when you're talking about the Premier League, you know, you're trying to attract the best of everything, then, you know, I think trying to get the best referees, I see some logic in that, but that's my best answer to a random question, mate.
Full finish with it, please.
You've always said that you were happy with Charlton and his form. Do you think we're about to see an even better version of him kind of
it's hard to say because, again, you know, I think I spoke at the time, is that I think, you know, part of the challenge is understanding that the problems we have are not that unique and that we can still perform, provided, you know, like I said, you know, you get the right help and support. So, but it doesn't guarantee anything, you know, because whether it's Richie or anyone else, I guarantee you there'll be another challenge along the way somewhere. Hopefully what you learn is that, you know, with the right support, whether that's, you know, addressing it yourself as an individual or seeking help from somebody else, then, you know, there is a way forward. But there's no guarantees of anything, you know, whether that's, you know, for me, you want to guarantee good performance, you know, train well, do all the right things on and off the field, prepare yourself well, and then you give yourself a chance to play good football.
Is that interview and that issue something that you think you will sit down and speak to now? Do you think he's already speaking to the relevant people? It's not something that we should intrude on?
Yeah, I've never felt the reason to, because again, unless obviously if and again, I'm really reluctant to talk about specifics, but if anyone came to me with any kind of issue, my first sort of inclination will be to try and help them. And, you know, whilst I'm wise beyond my years, I don't have a handle on everything in life. And I've got my own, you know, like all of us, I've got my own demons that I need to deal with at different times. And, you know, so I'm really reluctant to offer advice unless I feel really comfortable it's in a space where, you know, I've got some experience. But most of my experience tells me to try and direct them to people who can really help that situation. So, you know, whatever kind of advice I give, I try and do with some sort of balanced view on you know, what the person needs.
You ever had to seek similar advice yourself?
Yeah, but see, there you go, you know, so I wouldn't speak about specifically about anyone else. What makes you think I'd speak about myself? You know, and it's okay to ask that question. I'm certainly not saying you don't have a right, but I don't think in any other walk of life would we walk up to somebody we barely knew and ask them whether they've got any, you know, issues around those areas. And I think that's where we've always got to be respectful. I think it's different when someone like Richie comes out, and then I think, okay, well, that's in the public forum, and I think he's doing it for the right reasons. But it's why when I come here sometimes and I get asked questions and I don't give all the information. It's not because I'm trying to be tricky. It's because I think all of us in life, you know, have a space that we want to keep private, and I'm certainly always, you know, conscious of that I don't speak out of turn, particularly when I talk about individual players or individuals within the group.
Okay, thank you.